Hey everyone, I'm here today to do my monthly wrap up for the month of June. In total, I read 12 books this past month, which seems to be kind of a pattern with me. I've realized I never used to be like this, but I can't let myself finish on an odd number. Like, I had to quickly, when I realized I was at 11, I had to quickly read one more to make it 12, just so it would be an even number. I don't know what's going on with me, but I've already reviewed almost half of the books this month, which is interesting. Like, I never really, like, actually purposely read books for review or one way or the other. I just do a review, like, if I have strong enough feelings, or if I have enough to say about a book, pardon me, I never go into a book, like, specifically seeking to review it or anything like that. So, it's kind of interesting. It's almost kind of half and half, books that I did not review and books that I did for one reason or another. Really quickly, I'm just going to go over the books that I have already reviewed this month. So if you want to know more about what I thought, I would check out the full-length reviews. The first one is Inside Out by Maria V. Snyder. And I love this book, and I give it a 5 out of 5. Next was Paper Towns by John Green. I did like this, but I thought it was too similar to his previous books. It was really just like a mix of a little bit of Looking for Alaska and a little bit of An Abundance of Catherines. So I feel like maybe if I had read this book first, I would have liked it possibly a little bit more, but as it is, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. The next book was The Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. This book started out really strong for me. I love the world building, the characters, the writing style, but the romance in this book was really the one thing that brought it down for me. It was insta-love, and not only that, but the history behind the romance doubled, like, with the insta-love, made it just gag-worthy, and it really brought the book down. So it could have possibly been a 5-star book. Ended up being, I think it was a 3.5 or possibly a 4 out of 5 max, but I probably gave it a 3.5. And the next book was Cinder by Marissa Meyer. I absolutely love this book despite its predictability. The world created, the characters, the romance, how it was not a romance-heavy book, and, you know, the love interest, the prince was not created just to be a love interest. Like, he had his whole own separate personality and life and his own problems and stuff like that, and all of the Sailor Moon influences as well, I just thought were really cool, and I got quite fangirly over them. I gave this a 5 out of 5. And the last book that I reviewed is Legend by Marie Lu, which I also quite liked, but it didn't blow me out of the water. I feel like one, my expectations were possibly too high. Two, I feel like the romance in this book moved a little bit too fast in the beginning, and the romance being kind of the driving factor, the relationship being what was like the main motivation and goal that spurred the characters on pretty much in this book, let down just a little bit, and so I gave it only a 4 and not a 5 out of 5. So now on to all of the books that I read but did not review. There are 7 of them. The first one is Killing the Rabbit by Alison Goodman. This is, I believe, the first novel of Alison Goodman, and she, if you don't know, is the author of the Eon and Eona Dragoneye duology, which I absolutely loved and just devoured those books when I read them. I thought they were so good. So this is like supposed to be an adult mystery thriller type book, and I love mysteries, and I loved the Eon and Eona books, so I'm like, hey, why not? I wanted to read this. It is about an aspiring filmmaker in Australia, Hanny Reynard, who is trying to make a documentary entitled Freaks or Frauds, which is about women who have this, as far as I know, it's a fictitious mutation that Alison Goodman created. They're called rabbit women, where they have this mutation where they can resorb their own fetuses at will, which is an ability that rabbits and some other small mammals have. And she's trying to make a film about them, but the women start disappearing, and so there's crime going on. I liked the concept of this book a lot, and I enjoyed the characters and the ideas of the two main characters in this, Hanny, and then there is Molson, who is her producer, who kind of like makes himself be his producer for reasons I'm not going to go into too much. They both have their own like medical problems. Hanny has Crohn's disease, and Molson has alopecia, and it's really kind of interesting and sad to read about like some of their ordeals that they go through, and how people sometimes like look down on them or don't understand. For one, I thought it was slightly weird. I thought that these two disorders were pretty like commonplace and well known, but apparently that's just my own naivete, like, or it's not as well known in Australia. I have no idea, but my main problem with this book was the lack of mystery. It's really more a thriller over anything else. There is no actual like whodunit, because you know in the beginning who the killers are and why, and in fact one of the points of view is of the hitman in this book, who is hired to take out these rabbit women. And I won't spoil it, but you'll find out the reason and the motivation like in the first chapter. So I like to read mystery books for the actual mystery and whodunit aspect, not to read like crime thriller aspects of it. So that just wasn't for me. I ended up giving this a 2.5 out of 5. Next book I read was Dragonwyck by Anya Seton. This is a historical fiction gothic novel set in New England in the 1840s, and it is about this girl, Miranda Wells, who is a farmer's daughter who gets invited by one of her mom's wealthy cousins to have one of her family's daughter go and stay with them, just to help teach their daughter, and really just to be a guest, kind of as a charity type of thing. And while she's there, it's this, you know, big gothic mansion called Dragonwyck in, the title's down here, Dragonwyck. And she falls in love with the mysterious owner, Nicholas, her mother's cousin, and there's gothic-y stuff happening that I don't want to spoil too much. This is my third Anya Seton book that I've read. They're all historical books in some way, and I really enjoyed the first one that I read, Green Darkness, but then the next one, Catherine, I wasn't so fond of. And one of my main problems with her writing is, despite her books being full of all this like wondrous, like really fascinating, I find, historical detail, you can tell they're just so extremely and thoroughly researched. Her characters I usually find extremely unlikable, and just like people I just don't like to read about, and not sympathetic whatsoever, and the romances are usually just based on lust more than anything else. It's just these two characters are good looking and pretty and whatever, so therefore they're meant to be together, and that's love. Okay, but this one I found to be a little bit different, where the main character, Miranda, starts off as like really selfish and petty, and she really thinks she's above like her life being a farmer's daughter because of her good looks. And it's through her experiences at Dragonwyck that she grows and develops a lot as a character, which I really appreciated that aspect of it. And there are a lot of parallels with Jane Eyre in this novel as well. Some of them you can probably guess, like falling in love with the mysterious rich guy at his mansion and being the governess and everything. But it kind of subverts a lot of the Jane Eyre tropes, so to speak, which was pretty interesting. And I do recommend this book. It's not a favorite of mine. I give it a 3 out of 5, but I thought it was an interesting read and actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be after reading Catherine. The next book I read was Not Quite Dead Enough by Rex Stout. And this is actually 2 novellas, which I didn't know. These are 2 Nero Wolfe mysteries. I haven't read a Nero Wolfe in quite a long time, not since probably nearly a year ago. Nero Wolfe, if you don't know, is an agoraphobic, overweight detective in New York from like roughly 1930s to I think 70s, which is when Rex Stout died. It's a long time. So these are both wartime novellas, and so Nero Wolfe is participating in the war effort in some way. In the first one, he's actually trying to train to go into the army service. That doesn't work out, and he ends up, solving mysteries to help the army instead. I did like both of these novellas, but I didn't find either of them particularly brilliant. I think I like Booby Trap, the second one, a little bit more. The first one, Not Quite Dead Enough. There's a character in it, Lily Rowan, who is Archie Goodman, who's Nero Wolfe's like right-hand man, his like on-again, off-again girlfriend. And I liked her in the book that she was introduced in, Some Buried Caesar, but in this one she became just like this annoying, clingy girl, and I'm like, what happened to you? So, and she really messes things up really bad in the book too. So I really hope when she shows up again, she is back to her old self. So I give this book a 3.5 out of 5. The next book is Footsteps in the Dark by Georgette Heyer, another mystery. Georgette Heyer is really known for her Regency romances, but for a time she did do contemporary mysteries as well. By contemporary, I mean in like the 1930s. This was her first mystery and one of her earlier novels. It's about this group of 2 sisters, their brother, and then one of the sister's husband. They inherited this house from their uncle, and they want to go move in, but there's rumors of it being haunted, and mysterious things are going on, but they think that it's someone trying to scare them out for some reason or another, and not really a ghost. And there's murders in it too, obviously. Heyer really did not like this book, and I didn't think it was going to be that great. Like, I hadn't heard really that great of things about it, but I actually thought it was pretty entertaining despite not being brilliant or anything. I enjoyed the characters a lot. That's really what I like the most about Heyer, is her really humorous characters. The mystery itself was, it was slightly on the weak side, but I thought it was a fun read, and I gave it a 3 out of 5. Okay, the next book I read is A Tale of Two Castles by Gail, Carson, Levine. I happened to pick this up at, again, a Borders Going Out of Business sale last year. I had previously read and loved, many years ago, Ella Enchanted and The Two Princesses of Bamar by the same author, and I absolutely adored them, especially Ella Enchanted. So I had pretty high hopes for this one. It's about a girl named Elodie who travels from her like small farm island to two castles, which is like a richer castle city, and there's a dragon who lives there and an ogre. And she had previously heard that, ogres and dragons are both bad, but she wants to become a mansioner, which is like a traveling actress in this. But she ends up being the dragon's assistant, and the dragon, Minor, I think is his name, solves mysteries. And so she has to help the dragon by disguising herself as a servant girl in the ogre's castle, because someone is trying, I guess, to kill the ogre. And through this, her experiences, she learns that, ogres and dragons are not bad. I gave this book a 3 out of 5. I thought it was a fun, book for kids, but it didn't have the timeless appeal of Ella Enchanted to me. It didn't have that brilliance. It was interesting, but, no, it didn't blow me away, so 3 out of 5. The book I read is quite heavy, so The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest by Stieg Larsson. And I have been putting off reading this for quite a long time. I read the first two in this Millennium Trilogy last year, and I really just never got around to reading this one. Finally, I think I just read it to get it over with, and I wanted to watch the movie, but I wanted, you know, I always need to read the book first. So, yes, this one continues Lisbeth Salander and Michael Blomkvist's trials and tribulations. I thought it was going to be more of like a courtroom drama, because I know Lisbeth was charged for like trying to kill someone at the end of the last book, which I won't spoil if you haven't read it. But the trial was like a few pages near the end, probably like that much right there. Most of it, again, it's like a political criticism of Sweden's government and all the people, like the misogynists in Sweden. And I thought this was by far the worst book of the trilogy, because there is no mystery in it whatsoever, nothing mysterious, and it had good elements, just like the whole series had good elements. But I'm not a fan of Stieg Larsson's writing. Again, I still wonder if something is lost, possibly in translation. But in this one, it didn't have you know, that mystery element going, like, to keep the book moving. And so I gave it a 2 out of 5. Sorry to say, for fans of this series, it just, the whole series was overhyped for me. And finally, the last book that I read was The Unexpected Guest by Agatha Christie, and adapted as a novel by Charles Osborne. This is a play that Christie wrote, but she never chose to write it in novel form. So this dude, Charles Osborne, many years later novelized it. So it's really, it's by Charles Osborne, but from Christie's play. I picked up this and another one of her play novelizations by this same guy, like, months ago, with a gift card, just out of curiosity. Like, for a while I had no desire to read them, but they look about the same size as Christie's usual books, but the print is considerably larger, so they're really very short, and I read this in a matter of hours, even less time than it takes to read a normal Christie book. Yeah, I was kind of on a Christie boycott this month, because I didn't want to get through her books too fast, because I'm nearing the end. And finally, at the end of the month, I needed one more book, and I'm like, well, this isn't exactly Agatha Christie, it's really, so it's okay. In this one, there is this guy, Michael Starkweather, who he is the unexpected guest. His car is stuck in a ditch outside his house, and as he goes in, he finds this man dead at his desk, and then his wife is standing there with a gun in her hand, and she confesses to killing him. So Starkweather he thinks that this lady is beautiful, and he does not want her to go to jail, so he helps her cover up the crime and try to blame someone else. But then, as you find out more in the novel about this family goings on, things are not what they seem, and it is quite clear that it's looking like someone else committed the murder, and that everyone is just trying to cover up for other people who they think did it. I thought, you know, as I first read this book, I thought the dialogue and everything, you could tell it was from a play. It was very dialogue heavy, and it kind of read like a play too. Like, it took a little bit getting used to, but once I was into it, it was better than I thought originally. I thought the actual murder was quite obvious, but I think that's just because I'm used to playing Christie's game by now. But I thought it was still interesting, and I think if you like Agatha Christie and you've already gone through her books, these novelizations could be another thing for you to possibly get into. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. And this video has already gone on way too long. That is all the books that I read in the month of June. As you probably know, I don't do TBRs because I just kind of pick books on the spur of the moment. I never have a planned schedule. So I will see you guys in my next video.